Gavin Harrigan, welcome.
Michael, how you going? How are you?
Yeah,
First time
thanks.
I've ever done one of
Thanks
these.
for joining us,
Yeah, so thank you. First time I've ever done one of these, so I'm a bit nervous.
mate. All
So,
good, all good. Appreciate you coming on board, Gavin. And look, just
yeah,
for those of you who are watching you now for the first time, you're managing director of Quantum Finance Australia. You're one of
yeah.
Australia's most respected mortgage brokers. When you call the banks, they answer and they listen. Give us a bit of a rundown on your history. Quantum Finance has been going now since 2005, but even
Yep.
take us back to your uni days leading up to now and how you got to where you are, Gav.
Yeah, thanks for that. Michael, yeah, so obviously went to Curtin, got the commerce degree there, and then was in National Bank for 3.5 years. Started
Yes,
off in the grad program there in Albury, Wodonga. It's a pretty
beautiful.
rough place there, and then down to Melbourne. For
Yes,
12 months, and back in Perth in corporate and institutional banking on the terrace there for 12 months.
yep.
Then made a bit of money off this investment property, and then Dad goes, "Look, mate, you got to get into this mortgage broking." Thought, oh, never even heard of it, you know. But then took the big plunge out of the bank, and I remember leaving the bank. Told everyone leaving. This lady said to me, "I'll see you in 12 months." You
Yes,
know,
as
you'll
if
be
you'll
back.
be back.
Yeah, back at the bank, you know, and I said, okay, no worries. But look,
Best
mate,
thing you ever did?
tough initiation, mate. First 3 years always hard in any business, you know. So, and,
Yeah,
it's a great story about. I think it was working at skilled engineering, driving a forklift 3 days a week. 3 years into it, I was about to go tits up.
that's a great story.
And look, gone leaps and bounds, since then.
Yep,
And only go on one real motto. I don't really have, you see my office here, I don't have any signs on the wall, motivation. I just go, every client that I get, I treat them as though they're my best client.
yes, very good.
And,
Well, you've built a huge reputation, Gavin, from starting out in those early days and making it work from, working part-time on a forklift to now, as I say, being, gold broker with a lot of the banks. You've got those relationships with the BDMs. I suppose the first thing I wanted to touch on for people is the difference between them going direct to the bank and
yep,
using a broker like yourself. Why are
yep.
there so many more benefits to using a broker like yourself over going straight to ANZ and sitting
Yep.
down with someone working there?
Yeah, well, obviously being a broker, I'm with all 30 banks, so I've got the access to all the banks,
Yep.
and I know every bank's got different policies.
Yes.
So, and it's not, ANZ have only got their strict policies, and I know that ANZ's, for example, their policies are different to CBA and Westpac.
Of course.
So really, it's having that knowledge. I know
Yep.
every client's different. No two people have got the same finances, right? That someone might be on the same wage, but then most of them might have different credit cards or other debts or different jobs or this and that.
Yep.
So, but working in there, I've got the 30 banks. Obviously, it's a free service. Now that's what people got to realise. It is free. If you
Yep.
walk into ANZ or CBA, I'm going to get you the same deal, as they do. There's nothing's jacked up in the rates.
Yep.
But then it's
Yep.
if you go direct to the bank, that bank usually processes the loan, so it's a lot slower. You come to a
Yep.
broker, they
Yep.
get assessed in broking hubs, right? So the turnaround time's a lot
Okay.
quicker. And then
A
I just do it
lot
all
quicker
for
with
you.
the broker.
Yeah, I don't knock off at 4:30 or whenever the bank guys do. It's
Nah.
24/7. You can ring me at 7. It's all the time on weekends.
Mate, the only
So I don't
time you
really
would have
stop.
knocked off at 4:30, mate, is when you had to go to footy training at Claremont, Gav. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah, here we go. Yeah.
No,
We'll
look,
leave
I
that there
suppose
for
the
another
other thing for
day.
people
Yeah,
to consider, if you go to the bank and get
yeah,
declined, you're putting yourself backwards for the next application, aren't you?
yeah. Well, I mean, it's. I don't think I've very rarely have I ever put up a declined app because I've got all the tools that the banks have to tell the client, don't waste your time or it's not going to get approved. So
Yeah.
it's. And it comes with experience. You don't do that.
Well, hang on, we've got a question coming through. Gavin, with interest rates so low at the moment, would you recommend fixed or variable?
Yeah. So I've fixed mine in. Right, I've fixed mine in. I'm
You
a
fixed
CBA.
mine in, thank you.
Yeah. 229. Mate, that's a pretty sharp rate. I think the banks have really come out to help now because of the COVID stuff, right? They are, they've allowed people to put their home loans on hold for 6 months. which has been
Yep.
really good. The government's been really great, you know, with 750 and people that lost their jobs.
Yep.
But yeah, they're helping our small business, give them 250. But mate, you know, the Reserve Bank, the cash rate 0.25. So the next stop 0, and I don't see that ever happening. And if fixed rates of future projection of those rates at the point of time. So
Yeah.
they're saying,
Fix it
you know, the
now at a
bank's
low
saying,
rate.
yeah, mate, because the variable rate sitting at, you know, the best variable rate in the market's probably Bank West 273.
Yeah.
A 229 2-year fixed rate, you're well ahead of the game. You know, it's owner occupied rates. You're well ahead of the
Yeah.
game. Great time to fix it in. You know.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Couple of questions, mate, because we'll keep it relatively brief. But with the
Yeah.
banks, with the moratorium now, you can put your repayments on hold if you've lost your job. So you can put your repayments on hold for 3 or 6 months. When
Yep.
the banks have to call that in, and it's time for them to call the repayments to start again, how do you
Yep.
see that? How do you see everything unfolding over the next 6 to 12 months with this
Well,
COVID
I
and
mean,
everything?
yeah. Look, Australia is you know, it's one country, but it is divided into regions. Like WA, where I am now, different economy to you guys over in Sydney, you know, in Melbourne. So every state's going to be different. I feel.
Yeah, yeah,
I feel WA is, you know, pretty well positioned to, you know, bounce back, or property to remain, you know,
yeah,
pretty stable. You know,
yeah,
Sydney and Melbourne are at their highest peak. You know,
yeah,
you know, they had a bit of a dip, but they've come back.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see how those markets do go over there. But every
yeah,
situation is different, Michael. Like, you know, every family. Some families haven't been affected at all. You know, I mean, it's
yeah,
business as usual for me. Just
yeah.
for you as well. It's more these industries. The what would you call it? What's the bloody
Hospitality,
hospitality
retail.
industry? Yeah, those people there. Well, obviously, if you lose your job, you know, you can't make your loan, and it's going to affect. You know,
Yeah,
are you going to sell your house? You're going to ask yourself that question: are you going to sell your house?
yeah,
You know, but I see rents increasing,
yeah.
and rents remain
Because
strong
less
because
people
people.
will buy.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, yep. I feel.
So
I
not a
feel
bad
definitely
time to buy an investment property potentially.
correct. I reckon it's a really good time to buy investment property. Even, you know, having a look at a property, because some people are going to be hurting. Look, it's a lot of people over here. I haven't done a new purchase for about 4 weeks. Obviously, a lot of refinances. People are sitting on their hands at this time, right? No one knows really what's going to happen. We don't have a crystal ball. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens
It
over the
will. A
next
quick
3 to
question's
6
come
months.
in from
Yep,
Houston.
yep.
Paddy's in Houston. He says, what barriers are there for foreigners to invest in Australian property?
Yeah,
Gav?
well, you can't borrow if you're not an expat, right? An Australian citizen, you can't borrow money anymore. Used to be able to, but that finished about 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, so if you're an overseas citizen, and you're not an Australian, you know, don't have a PR, an Australian citizen, you can be an expat working. You can borrow up to 80%, but mate, if you're
Yeah.
overseas, if you're Singapore resident, you can't borrow, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yep.
And what we'll do is with one final question. If you have got a relatively new business and you haven't got a huge amount of cash flow coming through your ABN, but you do have
Yep.
20% deposit, what options
Yep.
do you have to buy an investment property if you've got 20% deposit, but
Yep.
not a massive amount of income coming through on your ABN as a self-employed?
Yeah, well, obviously the ABN, you can look at low doc loans.
They're still
Um,
around?
yeah, still around. There's well,
Which
Latrobe,
lenders?
Latrobe are the only ones that do it. Yeah, and it's not the glory days of the low doc where, you know, you just put down an income, you know, self-certify
We
for
know all about that,
150,000.
Gavin.
Yeah, so it's not the glory days. I was signing up lawnmowers and just putting down 350, you know, 10 years ago, and the banks are approving it. They're pretty strict now, mate. They want an accountant's letter. They actually ring up the accountant, verify the accountant,
Yeah.
and if there's any suspicion, they actually want to see your BAS or your bank statements. You know, so
Okay.
every bank, every lender, there's tightened up the screws. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
never been harder to borrow money. I've been doing this 15 years, as I said. And now, okay, so a quick one for anyone else self-employed. So if you're self-employed now, don't worry about your last. The bank want to see your last 2 financials, but they want to see your last 3 month or 3 BAS, right? To make sure that you
Yeah.
haven't been affected
Yeah.
by the COVID-19. It really is. And now you got to fill out this other bloody form when you do this with loans. You know, have you asked the clients? Have you been affected by the COVID-19? you know, this and that. If you're on JobKeeper, say you're on 60 grand now, you're on JobKeeper, they'll use the JobKeeper repayments for serviceability.
Interesting.
So they don't care if you're going to go back to work in 3 months, and they don't use that income; they use the lesser. So look, it is tough. I think a lot of people are sitting on their hands for buying because of the finance, right? It has never been tougher, and they're all over you. Every bank. I mean, example. Yeah. The other interesting thing is, you know, the turnaround times for the processing. You know, as you said, mate, you know, it was diamond, gold, whatever. I was flicking them out 2-3 days, but it's even, you know, Westpac are at 6 weeks, right? Because all their files are getting assessed in Manila. It's crazy the way that, you know, a bank that earns billions of dollars profit.
Did you say Manila folders? Oh no, in Manila.
Yeah, in Manila. Yeah. And it's just crazy the way that the banks bloody assess the deals overseas, right? When the billions of dollars profit costing us jobs. And then obviously overseas in Thailand, wherever it was, got all affected. So they're all working from home, and it's just a train wreck now. Everything's blowing out, and, you know, all this and that. Yeah, but
all right, I know you've got to go. One more question before you got to go, Gavin. Where do I start when I want to buy my first investment property? Well, I'd say finance is your first thing, obviously, Gavin, isn't it?
Yeah, give me a buzz and I'll be able to help you out. And you know,
but it is true. I would say you're my personal broker, myself and my wife, and I've been in the game a long time as well. Now more than ever, a good finance broker who you can trust, that knows where to take your deal to get it approved and obviously not get it declined, is so important. And it can be the difference between you actually getting that property and not, can't it, Gav?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously, mate, you walk into the branch and go and see Johnny down at CBA. He's only interested in, you know, he knows his policies and, you know, what he can sell you. But obviously, with the 30 banks, everyone's, you know, just because CBA would say no, that doesn't mean bloody ANZ and Westpac and all this and that. But if you do your legwork yourself, you know, it's time consuming, all this and that. I can lay out or any broker can lay out all the policies, you know, straight up for you, you know.
There's a reason they call you the Tony Lockett of Finance, Managing Director of Quantum Finance Australia. He's the best in the business. Gavin Harrigan, thanks very much for joining us on the program.